Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 118 Wrestling, and as you can see on the right hand side, I am joined by a very special guest. He's been in multiple Q&As by now.
Stop it.
Jake, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you?
You're making your channel debut here.
I know. I'm so excited. I was originally promised a channel debut on Ryan 118 for the Beers of the Euros, but then
which hasn't been done, sadly.
Which back in 2021, but then I remember you take because was the plan originally not to do the group stages with different, and then. And then you rattle through it in a day.
It was exactly. So it was meant to be recorded in different parts, and once we got going, we realised there is no end in sight here. So we battled it through it all. So you were meant to make your main channel debut back then, but you know what the most important thing is? You're here for the even bigger and better.
I'm here now. I do remember that day, just getting a text for you with full of spelling errors, being like, me, David, and Callum have just decided to crack through and do the Beers of the Euros in one day, and I was like, you know what? Yeah,
fair. Once you start drinking, you can't stop.
But I've come prepared with some gifts. I say gifts, things. Here he is. There's Phil, and as you can see, this is you can't see that this is Pepsi, but know that this is Pepsi. And my lovely Scotland Euros glass.
Guaranteed Pepsi in there, by the way. None of your Coca-Cola nonsense. It is good
you've known me
Pepsi.
You've known me for 4 years now, Ryan. You should know.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Trust me, I know.
I'm a Pepsi merchant.
But Jake is over here on my channel, ladies and gents, so if I can urge you all for a quick moment to drop down below into the description of my video, you will find Jake's channel there. Go and subscribe for some more beautifully eloquent wrestling content. Wrestling is far more down Jake's street when it comes to the intricacies, I would say. So, do you want to get a brief advert very quickly before we get into predictions?
Yeah, so over on Jake Talks Wrestling and Jake Talks Tunes and Jake Talks Capes, I talk various nonsense about the things that I love, music, wrestling, and superheroes. Right now, as it stands, I'm currently in between flats. I'm looking for my next flat. So once I'm in, hopefully the plan is, once I start there and my new job fully starts and I start my shift pattern, I'll be able to get a look and see and a feel for a rough schedule. But I love talking pish about wrestling, about movies, about music. Exactly. Yeah, and hopefully in the near future, some exciting content for the channel based around CPW, Glasgow's own CPW. So keep your eye out for that. And you might even possibly see me at the wrestling school getting leathered. So,
listen, Jake, I'm one of your closest friends, but if there is an excuse to watch you get leathered, then I'm absolutely all for it. Thank you very much.
Exactly, I'd be very excited.
It'll be the same with me, I'm sure one day I'll get tossed into an ICW ring and I'll be dead. And it'll be great. But everybody, please go and subscribe to Jake. It would be much appreciated. And we're going to talk a bit about Clash at the Castle today, which is obviously very big for people like me and Jake. Because why? Because it's in Scotland. It's the first ever Scottish PLE, Jake. Before we even get into the card itself, how excited are you for the event? What's your thoughts on the event? And just generally, how big is it having Clash here? And the city that, well, you're currently not in Glasgow, but you will be back in Glasgow very soon. Yeah. Generally, how are you feeling?
I was a lot more excited before tickets went on sale. I'll say that. I was even more excited before Backlash tickets went on sale again. But no, I'm very, very excited. I think you've seen the rise in these sort of international events, not just within WWE, but even look at like AEW with All In and stuff like that. And the market is there to be tapped into. You look at the UK indie boom from the 2010s. That began in Glasgow. That began with a man from Ayrshire and a Madonna song. It's that UK indie boom. And yes, Progress were obviously doing amazing things. But the first one to really grab the headlines and sort of go further afield than their base was ICW. So I think it's really good to see the Scottish wrestling scene kind of be given the spotlight in such a way. And I also think it's really good for the scene, especially you remember my Twitter on the first day of speaking out and how it was like, oh, there's another one of my favourite wrestlers gone, and another one, and another
just
one.
One by one disappeared.
Yeah. And it was almost like if you'd have taken my like top 50 wrestlers of 2019 You could have just went down and been like, that's him.
It was so funny because this was like just when I met you as well. Remember, like I met you in 2019, and this was like I remember you telling me about all these great wrestlers, and I was like, oh, good, I'm going to have to do research, I'm going to have to watch matches, and then very quickly afterwards,
need to get over to OTT for a title defense.
And now it's gone. Now they're gone.
Now he doesn't exist anymore.
Which is just great. But I mean, this is huge. As you die there, Jake. As you die on me, this is huge. I mean, I never thought I'd see the day that Scotland would get a PLE or a paper. We're going to call it pay-per-views because PLEs is. I've been told off for saying PLE. We've never thought we'd see this day. And despite the fact I thought that it would probably be in like a Murrayfield or a Hampden or whatever, it's still going to be a class night in the Hydro. Of course, got many Scottish people on the card. So generally, I'm quite excited.
I think obviously it would have been hard to do it in a stadium in the UK. Obviously, they did the first clash at the Principality because I'm 90%. I say 90%. I'm like 99% sure that is the only stadium in the UK with a fully retractable roof.
I think Wembley, I think you're right.
Wembley's roof only retracts to a certain point. Same with Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and a few others. But Principality is the only one that if it absolutely thundered down, they can go, okay, give us 5 minutes, bang, we'll crack on.
Yeah.
So I understand. And I'm very excited for this card. As you mentioned, a lot of Scottish wrestlers there. A lot of people sort of getting their moment to shine. And I think as well what this will do for the Scottish wrestling scene, for companies like ICW and like CPW and APW and stuff like that. You know, maybe you've come down from the Highlands for the weekend, you've brought the kids down, and while you're here, you just see about this CPW cease and desist or an ICW show that's going on, and you're like, you know what? Let's just go to that. We're in Glasgow for wrestling. Let's just go. The same way that people just go to shows over WrestleMania week because they're on, and then you might find your new favourite thing. I think the domino effect that this is going to have on the Scottish wrestling scene is unbelievable, and I'm very excited for not just the event, but the events fallout in general.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is ultimately like the biggest weekend that Scottish wrestling's probably ever seen in regards of reach, with, as you said, people coming from not only just this country, but from down south, from Wales, from Ireland, probably over the continent. The chance to go to these shows that you've mentioned. Of course, ICW are putting on the after hours shows as well. Like, that's just huge, and it's going to be a great domino effect, hopefully. And you know, I think in recent weeks we've spoke about this very, very briefly, I think, over social media or whatnot, but like, it seems like British wrestling is getting itself back on the map again, and there's a lot of great people coming through. So this is just huge for so many different reasons.
Yeah, like I said, when I shout out to Community Pro Wrestling and a massive shout out to Davey and all the work that he's doing over there. I'm with GSA as well. But when I went to sort of work as an interviewer, as a backstage interviewer at one of their recent shows over the tag team tournament, there was just a feel there that like I haven't felt. It was very, very reminiscent of that 2019 OTT. And I know it's my first time going to CPW, but people were all talking to each other in the crowd and being like, oh, how you know what I mean? You saw the same faces coming each night. You saw the same people interacting. And I spoke to LJ Cleary and CJ West, two amazing Irish wrestlers who I've seen many times in OTT. And we were like saying to each other, we were all like, this feels like what OTT felt like before that. And you can just see the talent is being nurtured in Scotland again, and the scene is being nurtured. And as I mentioned, the domino effect. I can't be understated just how massive this is.
Oh, no, absolutely. So if you are coming from somewhere and you're not familiar with your ICWs, with your DP, all these different companies, please go and support the companies. Yeah. Get yourself to these shows. Buy some tickets if you can afford to do so, because I know Clash might have robbed you, so I can understand. Are we ready to get into some predictions, Jake?
Let's crack on.
Because Jake's already promised me a few big predictions. So one pitch of I'm going this way. One angle pitch taking us over a few shows. Well, I'm looking forward to it. We'll start with right. Do what we'll start. Let's get the women's tag team championship match out the way. We'll get that. I don't know what order the card is going to be in exactly on Saturday night. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
To think
so
about because...
I'm just looking at the Wikipedia here, and we just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just go up the way.
Do you know what? That's a good idea. That's actually that's really smart. Let's do that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which means we have Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill taking on Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. I was about to say Isla Dawn, and then Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Jake, I'll let you take off things since you're the guest, but I will ask a very simple question: is there any way in which Bianca and Jade lose the titles this weekend?
I don't think so. Now, I, as you know, was very vocal in my disappointment with some of the results throughout the King of the Ring, especially with Jade not running through the whole tournament. I was very, very bold in my WrestleMania predictions for next year and saying that Jade Cargill will not lose a match until at the very least next WrestleMania when she wrestles Bianca Belair. Yep. And I was like, Bianca's going to put her WrestleMania streak against Jade's just outright undefeated streak.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was very, very confident that was going to be the thing. Obviously, that didn't happen. I've seen some sort of ideas floating around that they hold this for so long, it becomes dominant, and then they wrestle for the first Women's Intercontinental. I don't know if I love that. I like the idea of keeping the women's tag division on. If you introduce a women's mid-card title, I'm very much of the idea that you should have the women's mid-card title, say, on Raw, make that the women's US, and then have the women's tag division on SmackDown, and then that way you add more depth without adding a lot more stuff. But I don't see a world where Cargill and Belair lose. I mean, of course, first of all, we need to send our sympathies out to Alba Fire, Kaylee Ray, who just lost her mother in a tragic accident in Florida. And, you know, it's going to be incredibly hard for her to come out in front of that hometown knowing that her run won't be there.
It's crazy in so many levels, and I just can't imagine the feeling, especially when it's the first show like it's kind here. So absolutely, I echo your thoughts.
Yeah, and I do think, I mean, regardless, I think the MVPs of this match were always going to be Alba Fire and Isla Dawn.
Yeah.
They will be given the time to show out here and really sink or swim for them in the eyes of management, I would imagine. And it would be a lovely, lovely moment for them to lift these titles, but I really don't see a world in which Jade and Bianca lose these.
Yeah.
Exactly. Shayna Baszler, I'm sorry, babe. Shayna, you're
See, the thing is, I'll love everybody in this match. Like, if you the people watching this channel know, I love Zoe Stark as well. I've always liked Zoe Stark, and
you know my thoughts on Shayna. I've been a Shayna guy since for years.
Exactly. So, like, there's so many positives about this match. The only idea floated to me was that Alba and Isla could win, and it's a very short reign, and Bianca and Jade win it back, and obviously they don't need to be pinned, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I see a visual win for them.
Yeah.
I see a visual win for them, and then Bianca or Jade pin a Shayna or a Zoe. And I see maybe that visual one coming over Bianca, and in this way you can extend that feud with those two for a little bit and give them a sort of a 2-on-2.
That's the thing that I hope for the most from this match. I hope that just because it's in Scotland, it isn't a one and done, and we actually get to see more of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn after the show is done. Like, don't just give them the match and then they're back to doing nothing on television for the foreseeable. Like, give them the time in the ring. As you said, it might be sink or swim in the eyes of management, but I'm pretty sure that they can swim and swim well.
Yeah,
so
they are fantastic.
Yeah, so brilliant. Of course, Kaylee Ray was unbelievable, if you remember rightly. So, my final prediction is ultimately Bianca and Jade to win, but I would like to see a moral victory for the home lasses.
The Glasgow team get a moral victory, eh?
Yes, a Glasgow team getting a moral victory. That's the trend now, isn't it? If it's a moral victory, that's all that matters.
That's all
that matters. And we both lock in Bianca and Jade then for match 1.
We are.
Absolutely, right.
I do think, looking at this card, I think with the last few pay-per-views, they have been quite predictable, but I also don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, of course not. Because they deliver then.
Because, exactly, you look at these sort of 5-match runs, that's very, very 2017-18 takeovers, and we almost always knew who was going to win there. But you look at, I think the prime example of that was when Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch challenged Fish and O'Reilly, and there was no reaction for Lorcan and Burch on their entrance, and then the whole building was screaming for them when they walked out. Like,
exactly,
that's what these shows can do. So I think we'll see that there.
Yeah, I hope so. Right, that was match 1 of our 5-match card. Let's get into match 2, which is the I Quit match for the WWE Championship, we have defending champion Cody Rhodes taking on AJ Styles following their meeting in Lyon, France. And I am very excited to watch this live, I must say, because I think we could have another barn burner here. Will it be as good as the first? Maybe not, but I mean, the fact they've added a stipulation I'm a big fan of, which will spice it up and make it different.
See, I think for me, I didn't have... It's not that I thought it was going to be necessarily a bad match, but my hopes weren't incredibly high for the Backlash match. I thought it would have been good, fine to good. I didn't see it being as good as it was. I don't really think anyone did. But I almost think that kind of maybe works against them here.
Do you think the expectations are maybe a bit too high for them?
I think the prime example would be Nakamura Styles at Mania. We've seen them have one of the best matches of all time, and then your expectations there. And I think with them having had this match so recently, I think the expectation might be there, and I think that might play against them. But I also see that as probably why they added a stipulation. It makes it feel different. It means you can do more, and ultimately, it doesn't hurt the match the way that I think just another straight up singles would.
No, absolutely. The only thing that I will say is, and you might not agree with me here, but this is my thinking on the match as the story has developed leading into it. After the AJ Styles Mark Henry segment, when he came out and he faked quitting, he hit Cody with the Styles
pastel suit as well.
Yeah, exactly. After that segment, right, I didn't think he would, right, but there was more in me that goes, Styles could win, you know. Like, they might put the belt on Styles for a month or two and then Cody wins it. But I have a feeling he could win. But the fact they've made it I quit, I'm like, they ain't having Cody say I quit. There's no way they have Cody say I quit, which for me has just ruined every sliver of a chance I thought AJ had of winning. Like, that, even though it was a tiny chance, like, even though I thought it was maybe like 10% of a chance, that 10% has been eradicated with it being an I quit match, because ain't no way he's quitting. No chance.
Yeah, no, fair. I think if we were in this exact same position and Cody didn't have to have a year to get back to winning that title, I think if we're in this exact same position after WrestleMania 39, I can see a world where Styles wins. But with that story and that year being what it was, I mean, my prediction was the man who was going to dethrone him would have been Gunther, but then they play on different brands. I love AJ, and as much as I would love to see him have one more run with the top title, it's not worth it to take the title off Cody, especially if you're only going to have him transition.
I do agree. I just think it would be pointless, because Styles is better than a transitional champ. And then almost like, I don't know, I look at it kind of like a pity championship or something. I don't know, just a bit different.
Yeah, and also I think if you are going to have Cody drop for a month or two onto transitional champion, there's no benefit to being a vet. Especially if Cody comes back and wins it instantly. Whereas, I'm just going to pick like a sort of one of the younger... just imagine if Dirty Dom rolled him up, caught a cheap 3, and held that title for a month or two before Cody eventually comes and wins it back properly. That does massive things for both men in that 100%, situation.
I agree with you.
But it doesn't with a guy like Styles. So
like, obviously, I feel pretty confident. Situation. It's not as if we're going to see a Dom or an Austin Theory and roll him up anytime soon. But I get exactly what you're saying. Like, it's the kind of thing that would actually do something for some. Whereas Styles doesn't need that. He doesn't need it at all.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty certain, and my prediction is Cody. I think Cody.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I don't see a world where it doesn't happen.
The thing that I wonder most is, and not to prolong the conversation around each match too long, but I wonder what comes next for not just Cody but Styles as well, for both of them after this match, because Like, Cody's on a roster where things are still happening with the bloodline, and there's not a lot of huge top stars at the minute. And then Styles is obviously kind of teasing this, maybe, well, WWE's maybe teasing this whole potential TNA run that he could do, and blah blah blah. So I really do wonder what comes next for both men following this match, because they won't run it back and do Cody versus AJ a third time. Like, there's no way that'll happen.
So I just think in general, I've not been watching as much just purely because of my new job and all that stuff. So I'm not overly familiar with who's on what brand to who's where. So I'm just having a quick little.
I think the thing that probably makes the most sense is going to be like Randy Orton, and that won't be until SummerSlam, I would assume. So there's still a bit of time between.
Well, I would assume so. We have, is it one or two big shows between now and SummerSlam?
We've got Money in the Bank, and then Bash is after SummerSlam. So we've got Money in the Bank, then SummerSlam, then Bash and Berlin.
Okay, Carmelo Hayes. Hayes at Money in the Bank.
Fair play. Good shout. They didn't have that match, obviously.
A young guy. Yeah, like a younger guy, a guy sort of on his way up the card. Give him one of those matches as a sort of transitional show. I think you can do a lot worse than giving Cody and Hayes another go at it.
That is not a bad shout, by the way. I'll give you that. That's quite a decent shout. So we've both gone Cody.
We are indeed.
We're both gone Cody. There we go. That's that match, which means we go on to the match that I think I'm excited for the most. And we're coming on to the Intercontinental Championship match between Sami Zayn, who defends the title, against Chad Gable. I'm going to let you go first here, Jake, because I am adamant in my opinion. I am stubborn to my opinion. And I've watched the whole story unveil in front of my eyes. I know where I lie. So I want to know where Jake Talks Wrestling lies with it right now.
So, as mentioned, I'm just kind of unable to watch week to week. And I just sort of catch up with my clips and stuff and watch the big shows and the big matches that I hear about. But I have been keeping up with this story as much as I can. I've also been keeping up with honestly, I don't think it's much of a story. Chad Gable not re-signing. There is no way they put this match on this pay-per-view if Chad Gable hasn't re-signed.
Yeah, 100%.
If Chad Gable hasn't re-signed, or at least hasn't had the talks to re-sign, they give him what? Maybe a free show per appearance.
The Ricochet treatment, wouldn't you? Like, Ricochet's been rid of TV because he's no signing.
Yeah, or even to that extent, they could maybe have done. You know, I just don't see a world where they put him on a pay-per-view, especially a pay-per-view that they've put this much stock into, if he is away. Because realistically, you can still have this match and blow this feud off if you just go, okay, here's 20 grand to do Raw on Monday, and then you have that exact same match, and then he's gone from the company. So I do think he stays. Do I think he beats Sami?
Oh, the moment of truth.
I think, and I don't know how much of it has been teased, because I remember there was little teases at the start, and I don't know if they've still been teasing it every week. I think he's going to ask Alpha Academy to get involved. They're going to refuse on the basis of being good baby faces, and then they'll turn round the corner and stand across from Sami, and Julius, Brutus, and Ivy Nile will kill them.
Yes.
Distract Sami. Chaos Theory 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Oh, Jake, I love you. Yes, you get me. This is my exact prediction, basically. I love it. Because what I was going to say was, I was like, put it this way: do you want Gable to win? Because I know a lot of people are like,
I do. Yes, I do.
Of course, I
absolutely do.
I need Gable to win on Saturday, and I love Sami Zayn. He's one of my absolute favourites. I love him to absolute death. But I've said this a million times, right? Sami Zayn right now, he doesn't need the Intercontinental Championship. He doesn't need it at all. Whereas
Sami has evolved above the need for titles right now, in my opinion. Especially when we were like, when there was...
It's like Kevin Owens.
Yeah, but I remember last year when the Bloodline obviously turns on Roman, and everyone was talking about how Roman should do night 1 and night 2, putting a title up against Sami and a title up against Cody, and losing both. And then he had the match at Elimination Chamber, and everyone was like, okay, that's Sami's momentum ruined. And then the very next week on SmackDown, it was the exact same. It was nothing had changed. And it has stayed there the whole time. Sami doesn't need it.
No, he doesn't at all.
I think Sami was one of the best people to beat Gunther, especially with his underdog character, and he's had it, and he's had the rub for beating Gunther. But it's
I just think that this is the perfect opportunity for Sami to lose it while not looking weak, because there's the distraction element, which you've already said, with Julius and Brutus, Ivan Nile. There's that element to it there. And then the biggest thing for me about Chad Gable is if Chad Gable doesn't win this match, right? If he doesn't win, that's this whole IC run thing that going for it's done. You can't justify giving him another title. So what happens next? Is it a whole long build that we have to wait for Gable's next push? And how long will the momentum lie with him in doing that? Don't drop the ball on another superstar who's clearly great, a wrestler who's clearly brilliant in the ring, on the mic, enhancing people around him as well.
And I think as well, you need to put the title on him. And I don't think, to me anyway, like Gable as a performer doesn't really have anything left to prove. But I think in terms of the eyes of the brass and in eyes of like sort of more casual fans, as someone who can keep and pop like TV ratings and stuff like that and be good for the overall product, you need to just take this chance and give him the title, because Sami's proven he can do that no matter what he does. So Sami doesn't need the title to make good and interesting and entertaining TV. Whereas if Gable just keeps losing and keeps dressing down the Alpha Academy and saying it's your fault I lost, it's because of this, it's because of that, eventually it doesn't make sense. If he can't even if he can never get a win, so it's got to be Gable.
I mean, at the end of the day, if he keeps losing, then it makes no sense. Why would Julius and Brutus then be like, oh yeah, we want to be mentored by somebody who keeps losing? Like, it just makes no sense whatsoever.
Exactly. So, and we're at the point where we still can believe that his shortcomings have been because those around him have refused to adopt this mentality. We don't have too much longer left of that before the credibility of the run goes.
Jake, I'm so glad that we've done this, because I needed this. I needed somebody who is in the exact same school of thought as me. I needed that reassurance that it wasn't me losing my head. Because I get why people are saying like, oh, but Sami beat Gunther. Can you have Sami lose to get? Yes, you can. 100% you can. Yeah. God, Sami Zayn lost to Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania. Like, but it's fine.
On top of that, it's like you look at like Sami to me is like very like Tommy Dreamer. Because when Dreamer won the real ECW title, he never even held it. And it was his idea to never hold it. He said to him, and he was like, I should never hold this. He was like, yeah, but you're winning. He was like, yeah, have Raven come out or something. Or like, you know what I mean? He pitched an angle where the face of ECW never physically held the title. And that never hurt Tommy Dreamer in ECW, you know?
Of course. Jake.
People like that can lose.
Yes, they can, 100%, and they'll just get better from it anyway. Because eventually, we'll probably see him win a world title at some point. It's bound to happen, so it's just that, we'll get there. Great, love it, which means we're on to the penultimate match of the evening, the penultimate match of our predictions. It is the Women's Championship match, where another homegrown talent, Piper Niven, also formerly known as Viper, will go up against Bayley. And it's another one where it's probably going to be a tough one to admit, but I don't fancy the chances of our homegrown last, Jake.
I don't. Now, saying this, I'll say her chances are better now. I'll say her chances are better this week, because if Clash was this Saturday, that means Bayley would have been in the same country as Paramore. And we all know what's going to happen whenever Bayley finally gets her Paramore entrance. Bayley's Paramore entrance will be, I've not watched Dragon Ball Z, but it'll be every single one of the best women's professional wrestlers ever. They do the fusion dance from Dragon Ball Z. That is the power that Bayley will have if she walks out with a Paramore entrance.
You'll never understand my pain that when me and Scott were sitting there at WrestleMania and we were waiting for the Women's Championship match to start, and I says, do you think she'll come out to Paramore? Do you think? Because we were obviously waiting for her change of theme.
Yeah.
We're like, will she do it?
Because they got Simmer. They got Hayley Williams' song Simmer for the video package, and that was incredibly personal to me. Incredibly personal to me.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was great. So I do think Piper Niven has a better chance this week than she did last week. However, her chances went for Nainty slim.
Yes, very, very slim. Which is a shame. I do love Big Piper Niven. I think she's great.
I think
that she is like, she does the whole bigger women kind of thing really well. You know, I think that she uses her size to her advantage, and she's convincing with it, and she backs it up with that. You heard, like, give her more time on, like, the mic, because her promo was great last week.
To me, she's always struck me as the wrestler that has always sort of stood out the most to me in my mind when I watch her. She reminds me a lot of Awesome Kong, in that sense that her size and her stature and her build obviously plays a part into the way that she wrestles and she performs, and she's also not doing like I'm this size but I'm doing moonsaults, but it is still like a strong brute style, but with just a grace to it. You know, it's very Awesome Kong.
And that's why I think her and Bayley will put on a great match at the weekend. I think we'll get something that delivers here. Like, I don't know if you remember watching.
Bayley was able to get a good match at 2016 Nia Jax, so
exactly. And listen, do you remember who was it she faced? Was it Becky in the Royal Rumble when it was Doudrop? And it was a women's championship match. It was Becky was champion at the time.
I was firmly tuned out of WWE at that point in time.
So was I. This is why I'm struggling to remember. Like, but we did go to, Callum Craig. We were at Callum Craig's house because it was the Royal Rumble. We're like, it's the Royal Rumble. We'll go watch the Royal Rumble. And I had no idea. I was like, Viper's fighting for the women's championship. And the match she was great. She was really, really good.
Because I remember that was the bad Rumble, because I remember I'd like finished a shift at Malone's. I came home and it was like the Rumble was still going on, and I got into a flat and I looked into the living room and Emmett was on the couch watching it, and I was like, "Rumble worth watching?" And he was like, "No." And
it was like, 2022, wasn't it?
Yeah,
22. Yes.
I pop my head around the corner as I get in the door, and I see Emmett, and I'm like, "Rumble worth watching?" He's like, "No, it's been shite." And I was like, "Why are you still watching?" He's like,
"It was terrible. It was so bad."
He was like, "Why are you still watching it?" And he was like, "Because it's 4:30 and we're down to the last 7." And I was like, "Yeah, fair enough."
It was so bad. But one of the highlights of the night was Piper Niven, aka Doudrop at the time, and it was great. So this is like her first big opportunity like that since a one-on-one match for the championship, and I'm so glad that she's getting it. It's just, it's clearly going to be Bayley that comes.
It's a shame because, as we've mentioned, like, she is an absolutely unbelievable talent, and I've seen her live before, and she was unbelievable, blew me away that night. Like, I was just like enthralled immediately. I mean, you can even go back. I'm pretty sure ICW have the match with her, and as we previously mentioned, Kaylee Ray, that hardcore. It was the last woman standing, the one with the bin full of tacks. I'm pretty sure that full match is on YouTube.
Probably is.
And if you want another good Kaylee Ray match on YouTube, the WCPW last woman standing against Nixon Newell, Tegan Knox, where she puts her head through the chair and does a Randy Orton punt. I remember watching that at 16, and I was like, "Oh, someone's died."
Women shouldn't be doing this. This isn't very ladylike.
This is unbecoming of them. But no, I think Piper Niven's an unbelievable talent, as we mentioned, and I just think, once again, let her show out, give her the chance to prove it, and even though this probably won't be her time now, a really, really good performance against Bayley puts her just a little bit closer to effing when it will be.
Because realistically speaking as well, I think Chelsea Green's been spoke about so much that whether it be the world title or if they introduce a mid-card title, I think there might come a day when Chelsea Green is in that picture, and then Piper Niven won't be far from that picture should she still be aligned with Chelsea Green.
As it stands right now, Chelsea Green is screaming Money in the Bank briefcase at me.
Yeah. 100%. I said it when the Q&A's a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I think should win it. I think should win it anyway.
So I can imagine there's maybe a runway for that match to happen for the title, 8-9 months from now, and I think a great performance, which we'll no doubt get from Piper Niven, will help that.
Yeah. Right. So we'll both go in Bayley. We're 4 out of 4 here, the giver.
We're matched up, then. We're matched up.
I thought that maybe Sammy and Gable would split opinions, and then you come across with the exact same state of mind. Right.
Listen, I'm a TNA child, and so I know just what we can do when we have an insane Olympian and a singer. And then when I got the WWE Network, I went back and I educated myself on Team Angle. Chad Gable is for the sickos.
Exactly. But do you know what else is for the sickos? The main event. Let's get into the main event, because we have the World Heavyweight Championship on the line. where Damien Priest goes up against the man himself, the man of the hour, the man who's been waiting to redeem himself after the cash-in his own country. It's going to be Damien Priest against Drew McIntyre, which I assume, Jake, is the match where you have your bold storyline prediction concoction thing.
So yes. I'll let you go first. I'll let you hit me with your working.
I'm so... I don't know. I just can't make my mind up with this match because there is so much to think about here. Gunther is guaranteed a World Heavyweight Championship match at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Do I see it being Gunther versus Damien Priest? I don't. Do I see it being Gunther versus Drew? No, because surely it's got to be Punk versus Drew. So I'm like, I don't know. So then you've got to think about Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank comes in. I'm like, all right, well, Finn Balor could win Money in the Bank, hypothetically speaking. Does he cash in on Priest? Yes, but then surely that means that there's got to be a rematch. And it's just, there's so much to think about. This match for me is so unpredictable. And I feel like part of me is screaming at myself for saying there is no way that they can have Drew McIntyre lose a World Championship match in Glasgow, Scotland. But then it just makes sense for Punk to come out, cost him the match, and it sets up SummerSlam beautifully. So there's just so many things. I can't make my mind up. I have went back and forth all week on who I think will win this match. And right now, I am seeing Damien Priest getting the dodgy win. Somehow. I like the unpredictability of what comes next because God knows what does comes next, no matter who wins. Right now, I think I'm swaying towards the booed out the building Priest.
Okay, now I hear that. Now before I begin my prediction, let me take a sip of this Pepsi real quick.
I'll join you. I'll join you in that one. Get the logo in.
Get this guy. Get this copyright-free man and a copyright-free Scotland.
Beautiful glass.
So, I'm going to need you to walk with me.
I'm walking with you. Well, I'm sitting, but I'm walking.
We're walking. So the Judgment Day, Dirty Dom, Finn, and he who will not be named are barred from ringside. Right. So that obviously favours Drew. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the build of what I've seen has been mostly around the fact that Judgment Day will not be there to bail Priest out. He's going to have to go one-on-one with Drew. No bullshit. No nothing. So, I think it's going to become very evident. I can see a world where it becomes very evident that Priest is out of his depth against Drew. That's the way that the match is played out. Drew does things like he's got him pinned and he lifts his head up and he's like, yeah, he's want more. And he keeps doing that and he could always just have, he's this close, he could finish him off. And he keeps going. And then, through the crowd, wearing Gucci belts and Mad Ball hoodies. No, I know that part. CM Punk in the full Celtic kit, socks and all.
Yes.
Socks and all. And a wee pair of Adidas trainers because he likes to wear Adidas trainer.
Sexy.
He runs through, he does something. I think Punk's going to get involved. Maybe they just play cult personality. Maybe they tease it. Whatever. It's enough. It's enough to distract Drew, and Priest picks up the win. He runs out of there because he'll get fucking booed out the building, and we can just let Drew have his moment with, the 14, 15,000, how many people there, just cheering him on. Because I think if Priest wins with like a roll-up, he skedaddles. He is gone.
From the building.
Yeah, out of here. So I think that happens. Anyway, we then are building to Money in the Bank next. Finn Balor will win Money in the Bank.
Right.
And in the Judgment Day clubhouse, he'll be saying, Cody, this thing right here, be scared.
Can I add very quick, has he shagged Liv Morgan by this point? Like, has this happened?
This is also added into it because he stole the fucking key. This just added another layer to it. And I don't know how to work out this layer in, but this adds another layer, right?
Right, okay.
So there's the Liv Morgan things happening. I do believe Dirty Dom. I think this is. We'll get there. And they're all in the clubhouse in their little spooky room. He keeps cutting promos, holding the briefcase, and he's saying, "Cody, the next pay-per-view. I will not say it. The next pay-per-view when we're in the same building, watch out. The Judgment Day are coming. The Judgment Day are leaving SummerSlam with 2 world titles. Maybe it's because Anyway, we build to Gunther and Priest, and all of Gunther's promos are, remember that guy that you had to roll up because Punk got involved? Yes. I've killed him before. That's his whole promos.
Right.
Anyway, that match is happening. Chops, and Priest is crying. He's screaming like Tom from Tom and Jerry. He's getting flung about the gaff. Judgment Day get involved. Priest goes, no, I can do it. I can win it. But they ignore him anyway, and they jump Gunther in the ring in front of the ref. Ref calls for the bell. Gunther doesn't win the title, but Gunther also doesn't eat a loss.
This is smart. This is smart.
And when Priest... Oh, I forgot to mention, all the Judgment Day bar Balor come out.
Right.
Maybe he can get injured or something and he's been taken off TV.
Right, okay.
I've not really worked that one out. The rest of the Judgment Day come out. They jump Gunther, and Priest's like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? In comes Finn Balor with his briefcase. That.
Yes.
Pins him.
Yes, I like this.
Now we get a split of the Judgment Day with Priest. We can find out that Liv was actually always in cahoots with Finn. And we can hopefully Rhea will be back in the near enough future. Her and Dom and Priest.
Yes.
And then we have.
I love this. I love this.
We have world champions Finn Balor and Liv Morgan in a sort of new reformed Judgment Day offshoot group.
Mm-hmm.
And then this gives us Punk and Drew, which doesn't need a title.
Yes.
This circumvents Gunther's SummerSlam title shot, which I think is obviously a good idea, but. It's a waste of the Judgment Day storyline if it is just...
Yeah, of course. And it means that Gunther probably gets a rematch at some point. Like, it might not be instantly, but at some point Adam Pearce will probably say, yeah, you didn't get your fair shot, you didn't get your fair crack at the whip, we'll get to it. So, yeah. I like it.
And he can be the one... And then there's also something that's very personal to you and I, gives Finn Balor a real crack at the whip with a world championship on the main roster.
Yes.
And it doesn't need to be... And it doesn't need to be a year. It doesn't even need to be 6 months. He can hold this till November, say, and say Gunther wins it back at Survivor Series or whatever the last big show of the year is, or if they still do day one, they can maybe do it there. This ties off this Judgment Day story nicely in a neat little boat. And I think they're doing amazing, especially working around Rhea's injury, but it's very clear that it should come to its end soon. Especially with what they're doing with Liv.
It opens up room for something at War Games as well. Like, they could definitely have the team versus team dynamic.
Exactly. I think, like I say, it gives Finn one last... will probably be his last... If we're ever going to get another Finn Balor world title run, it needs to happen soon. He's, 41, 42? Exactly. He's getting up there. It sort of then plays on all of the criticisms of Priest's run as Senior Money in the Bank and now as champ. And it allows for a reset on the Priest character and allow for a redemption arc of the Priest character. And it, like I say, it circumvents the Gunther title shot without giving him a match that we know he's just going to fucking smoke Priest in, or giving Drew a nothing reign, or having him lose again, which I don't think is very smart for Gunther because he is who he is. So that's my theory.
That is unbelievable thinking. I absolutely love it. That would make my year. I think it just ties everything together so nicely because it gives you Drew and Punk, which is obviously going to happen at SummerSlam. It's going to be if anything, I think that's the biggest match of the weekend. Yeah. Like, well, I say weekend, it's only one night this year. That's the biggest match of the card. So it keeps that. It gives Gunther his world title match, and a match which, let's be real, I don't think too many people are desperate to see Priest versus Gunther, but it allows it to create something bigger without harming anybody involved. And it also means that Finn Balor comes out the other end of it as a world champion. So I am a huge fan of all of your thinking there. Huge fan.
From the second it was announced that the winner of King and Queen of the Ring get those title shots, my brain was like, here's everything.
Yep. I love it. It just makes so much sense. How have I not thought of this? I'm annoyed. How is this not crossed my mind?
I don't know how the Liv Morgan shagging Finn Balor will work its way in.
It'll come somewhere.
I have the main beats of the story, and then, like I say, we get a sort of Judgment Day offshoot with Balor, McDonough, Morgan, or maybe even. How about this? We just pretend McDonough never existed.
Yes.
How about How about you know when I say
of the
Finn,
imagination.
Remember, you know when I said like Finn gets written off TV for some reason, then he reappears, and fucking. How about if that happens to both of them, and then only Finn comes back?
Can I make one caveat to all of this, please? When Finn does come back, and when Finn appears on television once more, can we please get him out of the joggies and back into a pair of trunks? That's the only thing I ask. Thanks. I just can't put up with the joggies much longer.
Fergal, if you're watching, which you might be because you're a good Celtic man, get your thighs out for the boys.
I want the thighs. I love thighs.
We need the thighs.
We need the thighs. Well, that is unbelievable. So you've got Priest then. Just to recap, you've got Priest. Yes. Amazing. Which means we have the same 5 out of 5. We've got Bianca and Jade. We've got Cody Rhodes. We've got Chad Gable. We've got Bayley, and we've got Damian Priest, which would also mean no championships change. But just on my final note, before we wrap things up, I'll say it again. These predictable cards don't bother me as long as they progress things nicely and they actually lead to things and it makes sense. That's what matters. As long as stories gain meaningful progression and progress at the rate that they should be, I don't have an issue with cards like this because, as I mentioned, if you look at the sort of glory days of Black and Gold NXT, there were very few swerves thrown in the mix. Yep. And I think when you look at the sort of the best of AEW and all of AEW sort of big golden periods, it was very clear that Hangman beats Kenny, that Punk goes on to beat Hangman, that the Swerve and Hangman match, that obviously reached a very, very good conclusion. And even in the earlier days, it was very obvious that with the popularity of Hangman and Omega, it was very clear that Hangman were going to win. I don't know if it was necessarily very clear that they were going to win those tag titles, but it was quite obvious that was going to lead to a big marquee match against the Bucks. You look at all wrestling promotions, as long as you're progressing the story in a meaningful way, I don't care if it's predictable. Yeah, I'm the exact same, 100%. I'm glad we done this. I'm very glad we done it. We have to do this for more pay-per-views. I know, we'll get on. I love it. We'll get on for the reactions. Oh yes, of course. Monday morning we'll be there in Square, or Sunday, but I'll be knackered after commentating until 3 in the morning on Sunday. we'll film it on Sunday because I'll be at work 9 to 5 on a Monday. Oh, so you are, of course. Well, Jake, thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for having me. You coming over and giving your insight on things. And I really appreciate that storyline that you've painted out for the next few months because I love it and I want it to happen now. I can feel it. It's there somewhere. It's there. Everybody who's watching, please make sure to go over and like and subscribe to Jake. His videos are fantastical, and obviously as well, if you're a fan of the likes of AEW, Jake talks a lot more about it than I do. So yeah, they go to your man. Like I say, in the next sort of month or so, I'll have a sort of. I'll be able to make more regular content once I have my flat. And it'll be great. Right, ladies and gents, like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Cheerio.